In this video, we'll delve into every detail known so far pointing toward a release of Final Fantasy IX Remake. For the most part, I will try to provide all of the facts first before providing my analysis, followed by speculation of these facts. And while it may be tempting to hear all of the facts and click away to another video, I would encourage you to watch the full video in order to better understand what all of the facts point to for this remake. Also, hey gang, long time no chat. Now, let's begin. In 2019, a light-up display figurine is marketed, and copies of this figurine are sold in 2020. That statue goes by the name Battle of Destiny. The item sells out by Q4 of 2020. You want to remember this for later. June 2021, a French animation studio by the name of Cyber Group Studios announced that they would be working on a Final Fantasy IX animated series. Production is said to have started in late 2021, early 2022. For reference, the studio announced production of what is, in my opinion, their best-looking series, Droners, back in late Q1 of 2017, with the pilot premiering in early Q4 of 2020, roughly 3.5 years later. The studio promised a debut of several series for the first time, with Final Fantasy IX being one of those titles, during the Licensing Expo of May of 2022. September 2021. The event, known as the NVIDIA Leak, happened. Said to have occurred by accident, the story goes that a game developer submitted his work to be approved for a project that he was developing when the NVIDIA servers sent back a list of games currently on NVIDIA's servers. There were games on this list that no one had imagined would come out within the coming months. Games like Tactics Ogre Reborn, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition were included on this list, just to name a few games. This rumor quickly swayed from conjecture to fact in a matter of months, and over the past 2 years has been 100% accurate. Even games like Kingdom Hearts 4 were mentioned on this list, almost 2 entire years before being revealed to the public. About 1 month ago, YouTube creator Paolo from Tokyo published a video that follows a day in the life of a video game illustrator who happens to be working at Square Enix. During the video, he stumbles into this man who states that he's currently making a character illustration for a game that's currently in development, so he can't say anything more about it. The man points to a statue on his desk stating, "I also make original character designs for those figures over there." The statue that this man is pointing to is none other than the Battle of Destiny, which was mentioned earlier. This man is Toshiyuki Idahana, a character designer who is known for his character design of Final Fantasy Explorers, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and of course, Final Fantasy IX. Later in the video, Idahana reveals a comparison of the original Chocobo design to its contemporary counterpart. The most recent design of the series mascot is displayed next to a current illustration of Steiner, the knight from Final Fantasy IX. Later in the Paolo from Tokyo video, Paolo gets to view the mocap weapons room. While he catches a glimpse of what looks like a one-for-one replica of Squall's Gunblade from Final Fantasy VIII, the viewer can also see this weapon right here, which I will explain later. The Apple TV show Mythic Quest debuts Season 3, Episode 7, titled Saurian. Half of this episode follows the younger days of Poppy, an Australian girl who speaks Tagalog, as she escapes piano lessons by attempting to defeat Kuja in the Crystal World, as she believes he is the final boss. And the attention to detail here is hard to deny. When asked how she plans on spending her free time away from the piano, Poppy replies that she's gonna hang out with Freya and the gang. During the episode, she can't stop crafting strategies to try and defeat the simian antagonist. She entertains the idea of wearing wholly resistant armor to mitigate damage, and even comments about how she is having a hard time deciding whether she wants her white mage to be Dagger or Aiko. This episode premiered on December 16th, 2022, just 2 days before the 35th anniversary of Final Fantasy. On December 18th, our good friend Toshiyuki Idahana actually tweets this image to commemorate the series, featuring Zidane, the main protagonist of FF9. Shortly after the new year, we hear from Yoshinori Kitase, creative director of games like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, and 10, as well as a producer of more than several mainline entries. Kitase's New Year message teases, "There's also another big announcement, unrelated to Final Fantasy 7, that I can't say anything about just yet. Rest assured, we're working hard to make sure 2023 is the most exciting year yet." A few days ago, 4chan leaked that a Final Fantasy 35th anniversary presentation would be happening on February 7th of this year. I guess the main question to all of this would be, is there a desire for this IP to be remade? And the answer appears to be a resounding yes. The animated show is coming out, and that's a cold hard fact. Cyber Group Studios, specifically Bruno Danzel Dumont, announced that the animated series for FF9 would be making its first appearance at the Licensing Expo. And this was near the end of May 2022. While we have no evidence like a trailer proving that this actually happened, we also don't have evidence proving that it didn't happen. And there's some good reasoning behind this. Keeping the event shrouded in secrecy creates buzz around the topic, which can create an effective way to market the IP without having to pay the extra money for said marketing. This can also allow for the studio to make potential brand distribution partners compete for the animated series in a secret bid war, depending on the stage of development that it's undergoing, which, judging by the timeline of Droners, we can guess it's about a year and a half into development, best case scenario at this point in time. My guess is that the earliest we would see anything regarding the series would be 2024, as the studio has already stated that it wants to make a great piece of media that respects the fantastic brand of Final Fantasy IX. Furthermore, the show hopes to appeal to audiences new and old alike, despite targeting 8 to 13-year-olds. At first glance, you might be thinking, 8 to 13? Yeesh. Don't you think that's a little young? But think back to what age you were when you first encountered the series. The fact that a series is being made to support all ages leads to something bigger in scale. Now, take into account that the target audience of Mythic Quest are millennials. The punchline near the end of the Saurian episode hits especially hard for fans of the game, and allows them to appreciate its humor more than fans of the show unfamiliar with the game. And keep in mind that this episode debuted a mere 2 days before the 35th anniversary of the franchise, and it seems almost too coincidental to not be intentional on someone's behalf. We've got recent media addressing the millennial crowd and future media targeting the age we all were when we first fell in love with the game. It's a match made in Chocobo heaven. Toshiyuki Itahana, or guy working on this super secret illustration he's not at the liberty to discuss because the game is currently being developed, is known for designing characters mainly for 3 games. One of those games just had a remastered release, and I don't exactly see a high demand for a remake of Final Fantasy Explorers. In fact, I didn't even know about the heckin' game until the making of this video. Okay, but this box art right here looks super cool. Using the process of elimination for what this man is known for producing, this guy has to be working on a current illustration of FF9 Remake. And what's important is that Itahana is working directly on art like this piece here, in addition to his daily tasks of overseeing and providing guidance for other creative projects. Okay, so back to that interesting mocap room. There's a gun blade in this photo here. And that's an interesting topic for another time. Instead, I want you to focus on the hammer above this weapon, which looks like it could be the magic hammer, a blue magic spell learned by Kina in FF9. Neither of these details are as important as this last detail, however, from the man in the motion capture room. The subtitles underneath this man say that the room is being used for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but his message actually translates to, the room is being used for Final Fantasy Remake, and not the 7th entry specifically. Now, one could certainly argue that this was in relation to FF7 Remake, but with the interview occurring in 2022, why wouldn't the mocap man say that they were currently filming FF7 Rebirth instead of Remake? The devil is in the details, folks. Yes, he's not saying FF9 Remake specifically, but he's also not saying FF7 Remake either. Itahana's tweet on the day of the 35th anniversary doesn't add too much to what I've already speculated, that a remake is his current project. However, seeing this tweet did pique my interest. If you notice at the top of the picture, there is an homage to the screen that appears in the first Final Fantasy once the party defeats Garland and embarks on a quest to restore the planet's crystals. In July of 2020, Itahana, as well as event designer Kazuhiko Aoki and game director Hiroyuki Ito, were all interviewed as part of a celebration for Final Fantasy IX's 20th anniversary. A question for all three asked about how the series returned to the roots of the Final Fantasy franchise and what this meant for each of them. Each answer they had was different, but they all expressed a similar idea of attempting to return to the roots of the franchise. So maybe this tweet from Itahana is a clue. After 20 plus years of making a product that was meant to be the ultimate expression of the original idea, what could that same team do if they were given the same creative freedom to make Final Fantasy IX today? The team of interviewees also had expressed having put their heart and souls into the development of the game while under time and data constraints, which impacted their ability to create the ideal recreation of what Final Fantasy should be. The answers they have for their audience convey that, given the chance, they would gladly take the opportunity to remake Final Fantasy IX. And finally, the New Year announcement from Kitase confirms 2 facts. Number 1, this newest project will be unrelated to FF7 Rebirth, but it was not said that it will be unrelated to Final Fantasy as a whole, which means this announcement most likely relates to another game in the franchise. And 2, this newest project will be announced before the end of 2023. With the 4chan leak of February 7th being the big date in question, a lot of its info seems like a huge stretch for Square Enix to announce. I'm not ruling out February 7th as the announcement date for FF9 Remake. We could reason that this would be the best case scenario, but regardless of what happens, we will in fact know whether Final Fantasy IX Remake is real before 2024 arrives. So what do you think about all of this? Does the idea of another remake that doesn't involve FF7 get you excited? Are you secretly hoping it's a Final Fantasy VIII remake and not a Final Fantasy IX remake? If you share my belief that this game is going to be a reality, what would you like from a remake? Are there things you would change? Comment below and let's get a discussion going. I want to hear what you have to say.